It's Pastor Kim coming to you with a Friday devotion. Years ago, when I was a middle school teacher, I had a sticker hanging from the top of the chalkboard in my classroom. It had an international prohibition symbol, the red circle with the line through it, superimposed over the words, "No wine zone." Now, the wine that was prohibited wasn't the fruit of the vine, W-I-N-E. That went without saying. No, the whining that was prohibited in my classroom was spelled W-H-I-N-E. No whining, as in no complaining, no belly aching, no grumbling, no griping. My classroom was a no wine zone. Years later, when our boys were small, they learned a mantra which saved us from grocery store tantrums and taught them that their hissy fits would not be successful. That mantra: whining won't work. Whining won't work. If they started to beg or grouse or fuss, we'd quickly remind them, whining won't work. If Paul or Sam headed down a grouchy path, we'd ask them if they thought their behavior would accomplish what they hoped. And they eventually learned to answer, no, whining won't work. The truth is, we are all whiners sometimes. Whining isn't something that only little boys and middle school students do. I'm afraid that we all do it when we think that something isn't right or fair or to our personal liking. And the same is true even for the Old Testament figure of Job. Near the end of this book, in which Job suffers great loss and is subjected to the not so great advice of his so-called friends, God appears to him and reminds him, whining won't work. As a side note, you may be familiar with the phrase, the patience of Job. When someone says that, I know that they haven't really read the book of Job, because there are many passages where Job is anything but patient. In fact, he's a complainer. He's a grouser. He's a whiner. And it's to this whining Job that God speaks in this passage from the 38th chapter of the book named after him. And I'm reading this from Eugene Peterson's version called The Message. Job chapter 38. And now, finally, God answered Job from the eye of a violent storm. He said, "Why do you confuse the issue? Why do you talk without knowing what you're talking about? Pull yourself together, Job, up on your feet, stand tall. I have some questions for you, and I want some straight answers. Where were you when I created the earth? Tell me, since you know so much. Who decided on its size? Certainly you'll know that. Who came up with the blueprints and the measurements? How was its foundation poured, and who set the cornerstone? While the morning stars sang in chorus and all the angels shouted praise? And who took charge of the ocean when it gushed forth like a baby from the womb? That was me. I wrapped it in soft clouds and tucked it in safely at night. Then I made a playpen for it, a strong playpen, so it couldn't run loose. And I said, stay here. This is your place. Your wild tantrums are confined to this place." In other words, God reminds the whining Job, along with our own whiny selves, just exactly who is in charge of the universe. It's a reminder that God is God and we are not. And while we think that we may have good reason to give God our advice, the fact is that even our best advice would be full of flaws and self-serving motives. So, let's be thankful that God is indeed in charge instead of Job or any one of us. And may the Spirit help us to trust what God is up to in the world, even if we don't quite understand. Let's try to live in a no-whine zone. After all, with God in charge, we have nothing to whine about. Have a great weekend. See you Sunday.